The U.S. presidential debate was just a day ago, and it was, frankly, awful. I mean, literally both candidates came out looking absolutely terrible. But the one that really sticks out is Biden, because Biden was the one who failed to do what he was supposed to do. And by that, I mean, he was supposed to make it so he didn't look like a befuddled old man who had Alzheimer's. But that's exactly the way he came across. He came across like he was an elderly person who was very confused, constantly stumbling over his own words, forgetting whole words, and then completely losing his train of thought. Now, I know that can happen to people. It happens to me. But in the previous debates that he's done, he was pretty much just fine, other than the regular stutter. I mean, I used to stutter. I still do to this day. The stutter is not what's significant here. It's the completely losing track of what he was saying, completely forgetting what he was talking about, and then losing his whole sentence halfway through. And combine that with not being able to find words, and he looked absolutely horrible in this situation. And that's where he definitely failed. Trump, by contrast, managed to stay on message. And on by message, nonstop lies. That debate was so full of lies that literally the mainstream media could not even keep up with fact-checking it. It was that bad. And I'm not defending the mainstream media here. I'm just telling the truth. The man lied like a machine. I did not know that it was possible for a human being to lie that much, that quickly. And some of and his followers do believe these lies. Some of them are just absolutely nonsense. Like when they started talking about abortion, they said things like, in Democrat states, they're taking babies who have been born and then killing them because there's no term limit on abortion. I mean, that never happened. He's completely making that up. It never happened. Because it wouldn't even be an abortion at that point. It would be murder because they're born. It's complete nonsense, but his followers will believe it. They will turn around and claim that there's literally abortion doctors who wait for a baby to be born and then kill it. It's complete nonsense. But that's what he does. He lies, he puts out these falsehoods, and he doesn't even do them well. The old, now would be old Republicans would lie incessantly, but they would do it tactfully where you could, if they did really and truly get caught, they could turn around and say, oh, well, you misquoted what I said. I said it I didn't say it the right way, etc. And it would be at least partly believable. But it's not with him. It's a straight outright lie. And some of them are bafflingly bad, like him saying, oh, we'll put the 10% tariffs on all goods coming in, especially the ones from China, and then say, oh, but the American people aren't going to pay for it. It's going to be China that pays for it. Other countries don't pay the tariffs. The customer who's buying the product does. See, now, he knows this. He knows this because he was already president and tried to do that and was already told that's not how it works. But he's still lying again because his followers will believe him. I looked it up, and there was never a time when another country paid the tariffs for another country. It just hasn't happened. That's literally not what a tariff is. So this one kind of really blew my mind. But another one that really stuck out to me was when they were talking about Israel. Trump would have prevented this. He says he would have prevented this war from happening. No, he would not have prevented this from happening. Israel does what Israel does. And the U.S. just basically goes along with it, sometimes even just dragging their feet going along with it. And they'll believe him. Some people will actually believe him on this when nobody should believe him at all. And you notice still, they always phrase it in a way that Israel did nothing wrong. With it started on October 6th, which is complete nonsense, which is an outright lie. It started 76 years ago. Another interesting moment was when they were talking about the troops and who really cares about the troops and who supports them and who doesn't, and pointing fingers at each other and claiming the other guy doesn't care when, frankly, neither one of them does. I mean, the entire U.S. government for basically its entire history has not really cared about the troops very much at all, or particularly conservatives, who have done the most to cut benefits to veterans. That's not to say Democrats haven't done it. Of course they've done it. But literally conservatives have been, I should specify, the Republican Party has always been worse. And in that, Trump said that Biden had cut such and such and such for veterans, but didn't actually mention any one of those things, probably because there might not actually be any. But what got to me was the whole part where Biden said Trump let Iran give several of our soldiers brain damage. Whatever that's supposed to mean. It's a very vague term. He's obviously referring to the missile strike that Iran carried out on a U.S. base inside of Iraq under Trump's leadership. Of course, they just happened to leave out that the U.S. assassinated Qasem Soleimani. The U.S. literally struck first, and then Iran struck back. It's amazing the memory hole that everybody seems to have around this. You get the CNN commentators didn't say anything. Well, they're not really supposed to say anything, but they probably could have. Trump could have said, well, I mean, let's face it. They aren't going to. And that he was a crime of U.S. imperialism, assassinating a guy who was organizing the fight against ISIS. I mean, the U.S. is against ISIS, right? So you'd think they would want them to be defeated. Well, no. I mean, ISIS is still very useful for U.S. foreign policy. They can go in and use that as a justification for invading countries. Well, they don't really do that anymore, but that was a justification many, many times. But if Iran starts going to and cleaning up what the U.S. essentially caused, then it kind of makes the U.S. look bad, and it improves relations between Iraq and Iran. And that's not something the U.S. wants. The U.S. basically wants Iraq to be isolated from anybody who's not within the sphere of U.S. control, which is why that's important to try to break up. But you see, people kind of hate the U.S., and they've got nothing but a century or two of reasons not to like the U.S. and want nothing to do with it. And that's the growing competitive political spheres around the world, particularly with regards to China and Russia. In the end, they both did blame each other for the economy completely and wholly. To say nothing of the fact that, COVID really did screw the entire world's economy. I mean, it hurt China too, to the tunes of hundreds of billions of dollars. The lockdowns, the stopping of production hurt them a lot, as it hurt everybody else in the world. But both of them tried to take credit for the natural recovery that does come afterwards. Both of them tried to blame the entire COVID thing on each other. I mean, yes, Trump was blitheringly incompetent when it came to dealing with COVID, but it's not like he caused COVID or that there's something he could have done that would have stopped it from happening. You can criticize his lack of leadership and telling people to inject bleach into themselves, which is unbelievably stupid. I don't even really have the words for how stupid that actually is. And how dangerous and how irresponsibly, incompetently irresponsible of him that is to do. But there's so many things you could have attacked Biden for. The fact that he hasn't really much fixed anything. What happened to Build Back Better? It didn't, manifest. It's not that they didn't build back better. They didn't build back at all. See, yeah, that's kind of a thing politicians do, particularly Democrats, is say you're going to spend X amount of money into infrastructure and then just never do it. This is not a new thing. This is a reoccurring thing. So he kept saying, we're rebuilding, we're rebuilding, and then only pointing to jobs being created, which, by the way, when you lose a full-time job and then replace it with a part-time job, I know technically that's 1 for 1, but for the people who are trying to live off of it, it's not 1 for 1. It's actually god awful. And apparently we just forgot about the fentanyl problem that's going on all over the place. It's not really in the media now. It's not really all that important because, Biden's in office now. Don't get me wrong. The media certainly is biased. CNN and MSNBC certainly do have a pro-Democrat bias. That's absolutely true. That's not to say they haven't criticized them on anything, but it is there. And then Fox News is pro-Republican, and that very much is possible. But that lack of any coverage over fentanyl and the continuing crisis that certainly does exist is certainly symptomatic of that bias. But this debate overall was god awful. It kind of was that meme. You've probably seen it on Twitter somewhere. 2 old men yell at each other. Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. That's pretty much just what happened there. I mean, it wasn't even really a debate. I mean, it was really just 2 guys pointing fingers at each other that didn't actually talk or say anything substantive about what it is they plan to do if elected president or reelected as president in the case of Biden. Because that's not what it was. It was a complete circus. And the fact that they had to go to the point where turning someone's microphone off so that they don't continue to talk over the other guy, Trump, is symptomatic of childish behavior. Trump is, at least in my opinion, an egocentric, malignant narcissist. That would be the best way for me to describe him. That's definitely him. But in the end, no matter what, the working class is going to get screwed. Because in the end, both of those men completely screwed the working class the entire time that they were each in office. One more than the other. But still, you're losing either way. And of course, people are still pushing the whole voting for the lesser evil thing. Because that's worked out so great over the last, 2 centuries or so, right? Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.